All right, ladies and gentlemen, ears of corn all over the world, welcome to the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. Today, I am joined by my dear friend, Mr. Rich Arleo, man. Some of the deepest and frankly most effortless memories of my life are there with this young man that you're looking at right here. How you doing this evening, man?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. So happy to be joined here with you. We're about to do some reflecting. Hope we do some laughing, and
I think we will.
Yeah, you bet, man.
Never fails.
Before we even get out of the gate, I want to say that Rich is the only person I can say this about. We would have moments where we would hang out, but we'd have to get water first because we'd be laughing so hard that our mouths would dry out. So like literally we would be like, oh shoot, like before we get started, like do you have a bottle of water, and then we would kind of go from there. So that should kind of give you an idea of the kind of friendship we're talking about. With that in mind, Rich, I kind of want to start from the very beginning. And I'm not going to put you on the spot because I'm going to paint a scene for you. But that said, I definitely want to hear kind of your reflections on it. If I were to say music in the parks and a bus ride, what kind of comes to mind for you?
Oh man, I've been thinking about this all day because I mean that's how friendship started. And it's one of the craziest things for sure. I mean, just so random. I don't even know. I know you have a better memory than me. How did we even end up sitting next to each other on the bus?
So, I think you were behind us, and I was sitting next to Ray Mock. Now,
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Here's exactly how it went down. I'm just being honest with you. First impression, Ray Mock gets on this bus. You're already sitting behind me next to Dan Hanshaw. And Dan Hanshaw is a good friend of mine then. He's a friend of mine now. I wish him well. Friend of the program, Dan Hanshaw.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But, so, Ray Mock gets on this bus. And Rich immediately starts like making fun of him. And rest assured, I'm cool with it. Like
friendly stuff. I like Ray. Just the kind of person I am. And I think, I look back at myself in high school, maybe I was probably a little meaner than I should have been at times. But in my head, it was only to friends and people who I liked. So, I'll defend myself there and I'll let you go.
Right. No, it was very well intentioned. My point is, like, Rich starts making fun of Ray Mock, but I'm laughing too. Ray's laughing. It's all good stuff. Half the people I have on this program are people that I've made fun of, like in that very same way. But here's what happens. We reach a point of the bus ride where you take the seat cushion, like his head cushion, you take it out when he's like resting on it, and his whole head goes back like that. And literally, I remember at that moment, I'm like, this guy's kind of a jerk. I like immediately, like there's this scale that kind of tips towards like, I don't really know about that. But rest assured, man, by the end of the trip, we were way back to like, dude, man, I've known this guy my whole life, and it's only been a damn trip to New Jersey. That said, one of the highlights of that trip, which kind of highlighted just how much in our own world we kind of were, was the Ben Swanson commentary. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh man, I don't even know how we started on that, but I remember Ken Vincenzio was also involved, and I remember he was trying to whisper things to me, but his whisper was just putting his hand like this and yelling, "Hey, Rich!" That's the biggest memory for me. I think you're frozen. I might have to move. I apologize.
Okay.
I have to move to.
I do want to see. Give me the hand signal one more time.
It was Ken Vincenzio, who I haven't spoken to forever, but we were always friends in high school and band. And he was whispering stuff to me like, do this. But it was, Rich, do this. Like, Ken, what are you doing? You're not whispering. You're not covering in your mouth. It's just right here. Yo!
Exactly. Who are you protecting this from, other than the person that is directly in front of you? Man, I'll do that. And so, in a way, Ken Vincenzio was the kindling for this kind of moment. And
it was.
Before you know it, poor Ben Swanson, he was just minding his own business. Like, really, like we were not correct at all. And
it would have been whoever was sitting in that chair on that bus ride at that time. That just happened to be the person we decided to do commentary on.
Yeah.
And the fact that he looked so annoyed just kept it going.
So what I mean by commentary is poor Ben could just be standing there, and if he moves his arm gently to the right, Rich would just be like, Ben Swanson, moving his arm gently to the right there, getting a feel for the area around him. And the two of us are doing this mercilessly, which at the end of the day is harmless, but like we just don't stop, which in hindsight, I have no idea how the bus didn't just kill us, like nonetheless, it's Ben,
Ben Swanson, considering taking a nap, unsure if he's going to recline his chair. Oh, hand moving towards the recliner. Nope, not napping yet.
See, dude, we still got it, man. Like, honestly, this is pretty good commentary. That's probably what kept us, spared us.
And I remember clearly at one point, the entire bus looked at us and was like, okay. And neither of us realized the impact we were having on the entire bus. Right. But we felt it in that moment. And we're like, oh, all right.
Apparently we need to show some tact as our voices were raw. By the end of the movie, we had no voice at all. I'm telling you, man, it's a long trip to New Jersey. It never was it more apparent than when we were making our way back, commenting on Ben Swanson. Good Lord. Man. So, good memories, man. I can get lost in that for a long time.
Oh, yeah. I'm taking my first sip of my glass before you laugh. I brought the big Stein out today.
Ooh, there we go, man. I'm very, very grateful. Keep that a secret, yeah? I spilled a little bit. Keep that a real secret. So, Rich, you're on record as saying, I don't know if I tick all these boxes, but it's still an honor to me. But you're on record as saying that I'm the only hippie that you can bear to be around. And I don't know if I have that many hippie tendencies, but certainly I've had an afro and set far out and worn some tie-dye in my day.
If you were to think of a hippie in your head, just looks-wise, in high school you fit that bill very perfectly.
Yeah, true enough, man. True enough. I have the dating record to prove it. No. No, man, it was good times. It was good times. But
and for reference to that too, my senior quote in my yearbook was Cartman's quote about hippies. I was saying they're not people, they're hippies. And that was my senior quote in high school.
There you go, man. There you go. Just leaving us with the memories and the words of wisdom, man. Gotta appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I bring up the hippie thing because, at least in my experience, your first, or maybe not first, I may not know what I'm talking about, rest assured, but what I imagine one of the few times you truly got kind of a dose of the hippie culture is when you, myself, and friend of the program, Alex Creeby, took a trip to Randall's Island to see Dave Matthews Band. And you definitely got a bit of a feel for what a Dave Matthews Band show would be like, certainly in an open field setting, which is different, let's be very clear. We've since seen him at Jones Beach, and that was a lot more tame, we'll say. It was also much wetter. It rained the whole time. Yeah. But over the course of that that was at Randall's Island, and Dave was the headliner. But there was a series of bands. The Flecktones were there. Really under the radar, slightly stupid at the time. Their name didn't mean much, but they certainly, obviously paved their own way musically. I remember Tea Leaf Green was there, and Government Mule, I think, was there as well. But don't quote me on that, but definitely the Flecktones. I will say that was the first experience, just take this day, where I said to myself, like, holy crow, I have to write that down. So that was like, that was the Yesternow blog before there was a blog. And I just kind of wrote in a Word document, like, everything that occurred that day. I know very distinctly one story that I want to make sure to mention from that day. But do you have any reflections on that day as a whole?
I mean, we had a great time. I know that. And so many laughs. And I remember it was Dave and the Flecktones, but I couldn't even remember the other bands. But I remember the food just being so expensive. And
yes, indeed.
In the air, I mean, it was impossible. And I wasn't smoking. I don't think we were smoking. But just in the air, there was you were outside too, but it's impossible to not get a nice little secondary high from the whole act.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yes. But obviously, the lasting memory, and I know I've never seen you laugh so hard in your life, was my brand new white hat that I mistakenly wore to the Dave Matthews Band concert at Randall's Island.
Man, it looked like a pearl shining in the sea, man. He's wearing this fresh, white hat. He is repping so hard, and it's lovely. And in fairness to him, like, this lasts the whole day looking pristine and sweet, all right? The man is a beacon of ivory. Now, eventually, we get to Dave, and Dave's playing. I don't even know if the sun's down yet, but Dave is definitely playing. And suddenly, I feel some kind of like rogue moisture hit my side. And rogue moisture, man. I like that too. That might be the name of the band. And I just feel it a little bit on my side and mostly on my shoulder. And I'm just like, what the heck was that? And I look down and I see a splotch of red. And it looks like someone has just taken upon themselves to hurl ketchup forward into the audience. Now, I'm a little bothered, but I'm just like, okay, whatever, like, this is life. Suddenly, I don't see, and I can't pretend to know that I know exactly what was said, but I just hear like a very frustrated Rich Arleo to my left, and suddenly I look over and I see Rich examining this once brand new fresh hat, now with like a splotch of red on it. And Rich, like anybody would be, is just like, how did this happen? Like, what kind of jerk, or mentally imbalanced person just hurls ketchup for no reason? He's upset, and he is justified. Now, here's what happened. Rich says to himself, in his moment of grief and rage, man, that might happen again. I'm going to go ahead and set this hat down so that I keep it safe from any ketchup bombs. Now, I didn't realize he put it down. That said, it only takes a couple of moments before this brand new hat with just a splotch of red gets stomped on and flattened by a rogue hippie who wasn't watching where he was going. And then when that happens, I hear again the same like guttural, like, oh, And I see Rich, and at this point, this is what I love. What I can't even pretend I don't love it. It's like, at this point, he's picking it up like it's just like another hat, Like when he first set it down, it was like, okay, like I'll just be, it was very like careful and methodical when he was examining the hat. I didn't see him put it down. But then at that point, he just picks it up and he's just like, damn it. And he just throws on the hat. Oh, man. One of the most magical moments of my life. Very, very lovely.
Yes, I did not appreciate your joy at the time, but looking back. I think you got a face for me too, where I think you saw my face and you're like, oh, I'll hide my leg.
Exactly, yeah. No, I made sure that Greavy was between the two of us the whole time.
Yes, yeah. And in hindsight, terrible decision putting the hat down onto the ground. But in my head, I'm like, ketchup's flying here. This hat needs to go on the ground.
And condiments. It's like Chris Carey's making hot dogs again. Oh, man. Yeah, man, that was super special. We made the trip. I'll also never forget, there's not much of a follow-up story here, but at one point when we got that super expensive food, a fight broke out behind Greavy, and Greavy was trying to protect this gyro like you wouldn't believe. I've never seen, and at this point, I've known Greavy for like 15 years. Who the hell are we kidding, you know? Freaking A, which is a scary thought. But I've never seen him, to this day, I've never seen him more concerned than when he was trying to like watch the fight behind him and protect his gyro from whatever might be happening. Oh, dude, so splendid.
That's all that mattered at that point. And man, that gyro was probably like $15, so I don't blame him.
I'm telling you, bro. And in high school, dude, like that, shoot, bro. I mean, granted, I remember my first job at Johnny's, and I made some money there, but boy, oh boy, $15 was nothing to sneeze at. Now, Rich, I admit I don't want to call it serious, but I do want to, I do want to kind of ask you, about, I went to school for professional writing. And one of the reasons I went to York College was because their professional writing program neither funneled you into being, Jack Kerouac, like you weren't going to write the next great American novel. But they also didn't funnel you into being like Red Smith. They didn't force you to be a journalist either. And I know that, to be honest, by then we were friends anyway. But one of the things that bonded us together was a shared journalism class in high school, which we both invested in our own way. But to be honest, you're one of the few people that I know, at least, that kind of turn journalism into a career. And I'm a little curious, just kind of, if you could talk us through kind of your path through that, what drew you to it, and maybe in a nutshell, kind of your connect the dots to like where you're at today. Because I have a lot of respect for certainly that field, as I've had, my own kind of dealings with it. But I've always really appreciated certainly what you do and how you do it. And I'm just kind of curious your big picture kind of perspectives on that and kind of what led you to it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess, you get to senior year of high school and you kind of start thinking, all right, what are you going to do with your life? I mean, you're thinking about college and you're like, okay, but what am I going to major in? What's going to be my focus? What's my next move? So I took journalism, and I was like, you know what? I like writing. I'm good at writing. And obviously my main passion is sports. So I was like, if I could, I'm not really an athlete, played a year of football, could never make the baseball team, I knew I was like, I wasn't having a professional athletic career. If I could get into sports as a journalist, that might be pretty cool. So I took the journalism class, enjoyed it. I won an award with the Long Island Press. I remember that. That was cool. I was like, oh, all right, maybe I'm doing pretty good with it. I was looking at good school for communication, sports communication, and trying to stay in New York, but I didn't know where exactly, but Marist came up and it was a good fit. 4 years there, got my sports communications degree. I was the editor of the Marist Circle, the sports editor of the Marist Circle for a couple of years. Did some things here and there. Worked a little bit in the sports information department there, and at college started working for Patch, which is still around. Not really what it was when I first graduated, but it got me into the business. I was going all around Long Island covering high school games. Had a great time getting paid for it. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. And then a couple of years doing some other news. Got into the not so interesting for me side of it. Miller Place High School board of education. Those I did not enjoy.
Board of Ed meetings were different. That's true.
There and yeah. And people appreciated the writing. I got a lot of good feedback, so that was good. And once they laid off a lot of workers after I moved to Brooklyn, I was just looking for jobs, and I got somewhat fortunate, but I got a job at MLB as a producer, basically editorial producer, where you're not out covering games, but you're editing the stories on the website, putting them up on the site, and going from there. I mean, going from MLB to the NHL, and my role kind of has evolved from there, but still right now in sports. And
man, dude, that's so incredible, dude, to have that kind of passion and focus. Because I mean, journalism, and you can attest to this more than me. I'm not trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but so much of journalism is like what's needed right now. Like there's an astounding amount of flexibility needed to actually be a journalist. And man, dude, for you to find your calling in that field, man, it's something I appreciate the hell out of, for sure, dude. I don't know if I can.
I appreciate that. And there's part of me that I do miss the journalism part because I'm not really writing as much.
Right.
I try to do things on the side, but when you're in front of the computer for 8 hours a day working, it's tough to open the computer back up at the end of the day and type more words and write some things. If I'm really motivated, it's tough. I don't be on the computer anymore. I'm done with work.
Yeah, no, by all means. I mean, that's where kind of other passions seek in, like these interviews and sit-ups. Yo, actually,
I wore sleeves tonight just for you.
Man, I don't know, dude. That's not even a story, man. I just love when I don't even care how this sounds, man. You can soundbite this all you want. I love when Rich Arleo wears no sleeves. I get a kick out of that. You can go ahead and quote that, bro. You can print
that. Occurrence. Why not?
Print that in the crowd, yeah.
The crowd.
Great times, dude. Honestly, I remember I was never. Oh man, I hate the way this is gonna sound. Please don't take this in an ego way. But I remember I've never been bad at writing. I've never had. But I remember very distinctly, I wrote an article on the White Sox winning the World Series, which is not something we have to talk about. But I remember saying to Miss French, hey, and it pretty much went like this too, because Miss French was so chill, but also very bright. I learned a lot from her. And I said to her, and I was like, hey, and she's like, hey, Tomo, and I'm like, you know how I write things and, like sometimes they're pretty good and like it really was like, how sometimes like when I write about music, like you could tell like a lot of thought went into it, and she's like, yeah, and I'm like, I wrote this thing about the World Series and this is one of those, so if you can kind of submit it to whatever, I think it might have been the thing you want, to be honest. And she's like, yeah, okay, I got it. But I just remember like this really, which for high school was so rare. It's not as rare anymore, but for high school, it was one of these kind of true confessions of just like, you know how like 2 times out of 5 I just phoned it in, and she's like, yep. And I'm like, well, this is not one of those. Yeah. It's really a conversation that's etched on my memory. I do have one. Now I'm gonna go ahead and confess that this might be the one memory that comes up here where I bring it up and you're just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay? But this is not the best memory of my high school career. It's not. But this is easily the most underrated memory of my high school career. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and you were the only one there to witness. Okay? We're in the journalism class, okay? And we're in a computer lab in high school. And Mr. Bedford is the sub, all right? There's the name for you. I just saw the nod of acknowledgement there. Okay, so we're working in whatever program that they actually built the paper in. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
God knows if I remember that anymore. But we're working in the actual program, and Mr. Bedford has like these exercises for us to work on. I don't remember the exact context, but here's what it comes down to. Mr. Bedford says to the class, I'm not going to do an impression. You're pretty good at the impression, to be honest. Can you give me a Bedford impression? Would that be the most out of line thing I've ever asked you?
Oh, I don't remember. I have a face in my head, but I don't remember much else.
No doubt. Well, take comfort in the fact that you were pretty good at the impression at the time. It's like, hey, Rich, let me get you a sandwich or something like that. Like it really was something like that. But anyway, that was really bad. I probably shouldn't have done that. I should learn to edit these things. but gosh darn, this is only the first one. But we're there in the computer lab, and Mr. Bedford asks the class to save their progress in this specific folder, okay? And literally the whole class either doesn't know what he's talking about or just tuned him out or doesn't care, whatever the hell, okay? No, everybody just clicks save. Nobody does the save as and puts it in the right spot, okay? So Mr. Bedford, now that everybody's saved, he wants to like see the examples and have them all in one spot. So he's like, okay, everybody, go to that folder, and he guides us to that folder and open up your project. And so we get to that folder for the whole class, and literally the only actual file in there is called Karp. For Erica Karp, who's a lovely and obviously brilliant girl because she's the only person in the class who actually saved the thing in the right place. All right? And so you have a class of like 30 kids, freaking 16, whatever the hell, man. And we're all in this folder. And we just see Karp there. And we're working in pairs, and Rich is my partner, of course. And I'm like an idiot, you know, like, oh, I don't see our file. And Rich goes, I guess we'll just do Karp, you know? And so Rich goes to click to open Karp because we're so freaking thoughtless that we're just like, you know, like, we'll just use this one, you know, forget what we did. And evidently 29 other people in the class have the same idea because yours won't open and you're like, oh, it won't open. And you just hear somebody saying like, yeah, dude, if we all try to open this at the same time, it's not going to open. And you hear Erica come up in the background. She says like, yeah, I can't open mine. Dude, I'm telling you, dude, you hear that story, and I'm sure people on YouTube or whoever the hell time capsule is trying to read this, you're just like, boy, dude, you must have had a pretty shit high school experience if this is the thing that you took. But like, I promise you, man, I had the most lovely and beautiful high school experience of my life. But that moment, for some reason, sticks out so heavily when she blurted out, just like, yeah, I can't open mine. I just absolutely lost it here. And so we had to redo the thing, and we all saved it in a different spot. And that was so beautiful. Anything to you, or is that literally just like
the only, and I'm like remembering it, but only because you're remembering it, and I kind of remember even being like, wow, Tom is really enjoying this. I'm gonna laugh with him. It's just kind of funny, but Tom's really enjoying this, so let's have a laugh.
And I gotta tell you, man, I'm here to talk about you and share our memories, but I have to say, like, I feel like that's the most accurate thing ever said about me. Leanne Maloney, a lovely girl who I haven't spoken to in a long time, but a lovely girl. I remember she said to me once, she's like, it might have even started with like, you're kind of weird, but like, I love that, you know, it is what it is. And she says, like, you're the kind of person where if everybody else thinks something is hilarious, you think it's kind of funny. And if everyone else thinks something is kind of funny, you think it's hilarious. And to be honest, man, I think like that's a pretty true to life depiction to this day of who I am. So that was pretty astute by all means.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Because I can see people cracking up about something, and you're just sitting there like, all right. Nobody's laughing, and you're just losing it, and then everybody's, all right, Tom's having fun. Let's have some fun.
There you go. And then 8 minutes pass, you know.
8 minutes pass, like, all right.
Please, rein it in, man. Rein it in. All right, man. So, man, oh man, I gotta say, man, I have more stories here, but I don't want to bogart it, man. Is there anything you wanted to make sure to bring up today?
No, I mean, I know you got notes. I mean, again, like I said, the bus ride and the white hat, I knew were the two things that immediately popped into my head. So we've covered those. And I know you have such a great memory, and there's so many, we've had so many memories together, so many great ones. We've only covered like basically senior, like a couple of years of high school. And there's been so many more memories from that. So please go down the list. I'm happy to reminisce as we go along.
Dude, and you know what's cool, man? All these things that I do, and again, I'm so grateful you're here, but like, there are also so many things that like aren't stories. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, if I say 2 words, it's just like, oh yeah, you know? And then like, if somebody says like, why is that funny? I'd be like, oh, I can't explain, you know?
Way too many inside jokes that people would not care about whatsoever.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, man. We've forgotten more inside jokes than we remember. And that's both of us. Good God. All right, man. So up next, I have the fallout of a significant snowfall when you and I happened to be living, not quite neighbors. That's a little too strong a term, but definitely like 1 block over and very, very close. And there was one particular day where the roads were snowed up. It had stopped snowing, but the plows were nowhere to be found. Nobody else was doing anything anyway. And I hopped over to Rich's house. Now, a little bit about me, especially at certain times in my life, but even to this day, if I had to, I could finish a beer before you say, can I take your coat? You know what I'm saying? But my liquor collection is entirely for show. It's entirely to offer people when I see them. And then people, for my birthday, or certainly when I was doing the international business, they'll say like, oh, like this is a classy thing to give someone, you know, be it a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey, as I look off in the distance at it. And I'll never forget when I moved in to my place in Karp, my dad said to me, and he didn't mean anything by it, but he said to me, he's like, boy, man, you have a lot of alcohol. And I'm like, yeah, man, but they're all sealed, you know, like it's not like I'm drinking it, you know, what am I going to do? Throw it out? But anyway, my point is, I don't ingest a lot of liquor, but this is one of the few days where I'm looking at a bottle of tequila that I've had since the new year, probably the previous year. Who the hell do I know? But the bottom line, I'm at the point where it's just like, I got to finish this just to get rid of it. And so I grabbed, since you couldn't drive anywhere if you wanted to, I grabbed this bottle of tequila and I take a walk over to Rich's. And because of the snowfall, I can't get to the door of your basement apartment. And so I take kind of a route where I go through your front door and I see your dad, and you know, your family certainly means a lot to me, and they've always been very kind. But that particular day, having that bottle of tequila definitely resonated with your dad, and I didn't know that it was a big deal until afterwards. Would you mind kind of talking me through that moment?
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was a handle, but there were maybe a couple of drinks left in there, right?
Exactly.
Very
near empty.
It was a yeah.
I just wanted it out of my life. You know, I really did. Like, it sounds weird to say
it
like
over. Yeah, we maybe had like a couple of drinks left in that thing.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, a whole bottle of tequila. My dad, at the time, you know, I graduated college. I was drinking beers a lot, every night. He saw how many cans I was going through, so he was it was on the radar of like, all right, I know we just got out of college, but my son drinking a lot.
Yeah.
Bottle, even though it was nearly full. And afterwards, my dad was like, tequila? How much tequila you drink? And he just, with his like, kind of angry, not necessarily angry, but just very judgmental, harsh tone. And I'm like, Dad, there was barely any in there. We shared a couple of drinks, so we're just hanging out. What are you doing? You know, take it easy a little bit. So that brought, you know, a little bit of an avalanche of judgment towards me.
No doubt. And towards me too. And your dad is so justified, like, rest assured. But man, it was one of those moments where I didn't even realize there was a problem. And then suddenly, like, I got the story after the fact, and I'm like, oh, does he know it was empty? And Rich is like, yeah, he knows it was empty. And I'm just like, oh no. And it remained a pleasant, like, tongue-in-cheek, like, kind of thorn in my side for quite some time, until I remember one time I was at a festival of some kind on Long Island, and I saw your lovely parents. I saw them there, and they were both drinking, and I wasn't. And I remember, obviously I'm joking here, but I remember texting Rich immediately afterwards. I'm like, I just saw your parents, and they were drinking in the daytime, and I wasn't. And Rich was like, oh, cool, you know? And I think ever since then, all was buried. And I think, if I'm being totally honest with you, I think your parents were kind enough to come to one of my fundraisers, and they heard me play some music. And I think that really kind of buried the hatchet. I think they kind of got the picture that I wasn't swilling tequila at all.
Oh yeah, no, my parents have always loved you. It's one of those things where it's just that moment of, you know, I should be a dad here and kind of make sure my son and his friends aren't chugging tequila every night. But that wasn't the only time you came over that particular house. We were only living there a couple of years. I had got out of college. I was down in that basement for maybe a year and a half, too, before I moved into Brooklyn with Jamie. Mm-hmm. But it was nice being so close to you. We hung out a lot. And I remember you came over with your very nice new green car.
Yeah. Oh man. Yes, I did. And it's taken some things, but boy, oh boy. Yeah, my green car that Rich's dear grandfather didn't quite appreciate.
My grandpa I forget if he was in the basement, and then I was there, or no, we had moved there and I was in the basement. He was in a front room. he was in the basement after I died. He was he kept an eye on everybody that was coming down the dead end that we were on, so nothing was happening.
Right.
So you came over in a green car. Like, oh yeah, my buddy Tom's over there. What the hell kind of color car is that? I just listened. I was like, I don't know, Pop. Tom likes it. I wouldn't get one, but hey, he likes it. So, yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Some people we like anyway, You gotta look past people's shortcomings. Oh man, I love that story, man. I do. Actually, there's not much of a story here. There's not, but I do remember when I was living with my parents, I used to throw pretty much like one party a summer, and I use that term loosely, but it would be like out on the deck, and it would be drinking games, but it's not like it would be like a flood of people, but it was just the one time to get everybody over, and it was during the time when Rich was living that close. And I remember Brendan Kozak, being the champion that he is, came through with a bunch of leftover pizza from the casa.
So much good pizza and just everything, pinwheels, a lot of good stuff.
Nothing but carbs. Carbs for days, man. Some carbs on the pillow is worth a couple dub.
There's another one.
It was a feast. Yeah, exactly. I just did it. Boy, oh boy. Talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy. But Rich and I closed that particular party out, like in a very literal, like 3:30 a.m. Everyone else has gone home, and Rich and I are still playing, this Pong type game.
Baseball. We're playing baseball, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That is not a game you play one-on-one.
Yeah, that was aggressive. That was. But I'll never forget, Rich Arleo, finally, we're done. And Rich Arleo takes this leftover pizza, and he takes it as a box. And here's what I love. What I love is you mix it up like with one hand. You know what I'm saying? Like he's literally just like, I've got it, Exactly that. And in the moment that didn't seem weird, It really didn't. It was just like naturally, this is how you hold it. It's probably how like
that's how you hold a pizza.
Say that again? I'm sorry, man.
No, go ahead. I think I lost you a second.
Oh dear, I missed it. Say it one more time. What did you say?
And we lost you for a second, were you?
And the whole thing is derailed, just like that. What did you say? I'm sorry, man.
Oh, I was just saying, like that's how you hold a pizza.
Yeah.
In the moment, it just made the most. Completely hammered it on my mind. If I'm gonna hold a pizza box, this is how you hold a pizza box. There's no other way to do it.
Exactly. And so Rich, we say goodnight, and again, he's practically a neighbor, and he's not driving. Let's be very clear. And so he starts walking, and I remember so vividly. He makes it to the street, and he just starts like not straight up sideways, but definitely at like a 45-degree angle is he making his way home. And I remember this moment of just like, I wonder if he's all right, and then like literally this debate, and I'm not sober either, and literally this internal debate of just like, yeah, he's really close. He'll be all right. And I texted him like first thing the next morning because I realized I was an idiot. I was like, "Are you all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I was like, "Okay." I'll never forget it, man. Oh, dude. Anyway, man. Speaking of, you know what, dude? I want to talk about your bachelor party a little bit, but not in a big picture sense. The memories I treasure are just spending time with your friends. It was really cool to get to know them, and certainly for at least the weekend, but in some cases even more so, forge my own relationships with them. It sounds like a freaking Hallmark card to say it, but any friend of yours is somebody you want to get to know, including me. But my takeaways from the bachelor party, one, I forgot my sneakers. So even for the informal part of this trip, as I'm walking down the boardwalk in my t-shirt and shorts, I'm wearing the flyest dress shoes on the damn market, including taking a shot at a street vendor we did the around the world 3-point basketball shootout, which was so stupid to do, in dress shoes. That was very painful, and I did not do well, but I did do better than Chris Carey, who made no I'm really forgiving him. I'm sorry. I love Chris Carey. He's an O's fan. I love Chris Carey. And I also, the reason I bring up your bachelor party, because there's a story I want to hear that I was present for, but I wasn't really present for. And I'm not even going to paint myself in a negative light. I just don't think I realized it was a story worth telling. I don't think it was a matter of experiment of any kind. Tell me about, apparently there was a point where I was following a dealer who was, all right, talk me through that. Because I remember I was on a hard streak and I was winning some money. And then apparently like there were eyes on me that I didn't realize, and some things happened.
Well, I mean, immediately we knew we were in for a night. We're like, all right, let's go down. We'll make this night, drinking, gambling, and having a good time. So we get down the elevator. First thing, you turn to everybody like, gentlemen, great night, but I've got many things I got to do here. I'm sure I'll see you around later on, but I've got my plan. So you immediately were letting everybody know, I gotta go play this game here. That was the main concern. You're like, gentlemen, I'm sure I'll see you around, but I'm gonna go that way.
Yo, who else would be so diplomatic about blowing you off?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was 5-card poker the whole night.
Yeah, something like that. That sounds like me, by all means. Yes. Yeah.
And this one Asian woman, I forget her name. I think I remember the name. I know you knew it for at least that night. We had sat down at one table together with her, and you had been doing pretty well. And then she left, and I realized like all of a sudden we were losing, and then we lost you. Like we turned and you were gone at the table.
I do that. I
kind of followed her to whatever table she was at, and we're there. And I'm like, oh, all right, well. We went on, played some games. We were trying different games, whatnot. But you were just hooked on this lady and the 5-card poker. I guess you were winning. And I think you did have a nice night.
Yeah.
We would think about it every half hour or so. I was like, where's Polly? So we look around and we see, and sure enough, you're sitting at the table with this lady. And I remember one time we all sat down next to you, and I think she left. And like right as we sat down, and you kind of like. Oh, all right, and then all of a sudden you were gone. Didn't care if you were there, just that she had left. And that was not acceptable. So, yeah.
I'm sorry about that, man. But we had
no. It was hysterical. I would talk about it with my buddies too all the time. Just locked in, man. Locked in. It was impressive.
We had plenty of other memories together, but yeah, I was definitely. And I also know we taught Dave how to play 3-card. We taught Dave how to play the poker as well. That was a nice man. I miss Dave. Dave's doing all right. Not to sidetrack.
Yeah, doing good. Good. I live pretty close to him. He's in Jersey, so see him every now and then. So.
Right on. Good. All my best to him. By all means.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he was just calling you a legend all weekend.
Oh, man. Yeah, no doubt. I do. I like him. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not a legend. I am, you know what I am? I am the shot that from afar guy, man. That is who I am. But anyway, so we brought up baseball, and one of the last things I wanted to kind of talk through, we took a pretty special trip with Chris Carey to Camden Yards, and what was cool, they didn't quite do it in the moment, but later on that night, the O's actually clinched a playoff berth for the first time in a long time, and now we're well past those days already, which is a shame. But at the time, it seemed like a real kind of burgeoning moment for the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, buckle up.
Buckle up, baby. Buckle up.
Man, that was such a special trip. I kind of wanted your thoughts on kind of being the minority, we'll say, as the New York fan. I know you were rocking your Tim Tebow jersey at the time.
Lord knows, Sanchez jersey.
Was it a Sanchez jersey? I'm sorry. Good.
Well, remember, it was the Sanchez jersey because it was a Sunday. The Jets were playing. If I remember correctly, the Jets were playing and the Yankees had been out of it. So it was, the Orioles. Did the Orioles win the division that year, or they definitely finished above the Yankees?
Right. I don't think they won the division because I think they had to play Texas in the wild card, and then they wound up. Oh, I might be confusing the years, but bottom line.
Yeah. Regardless, my focus as a sports fan turned to the Jets. It was the Sanchez year still, but that year right around that time was starting to lose his job to Tebow.
Right.
So I, in all my infinite wisdom, decided to wear a Mark Sanchez jersey to Camden Yards on a Sunday in Baltimore. And I remember following the game a little bit as we were watching the baseball game, and they lost. I think Tebow took over the game, and as we're walking by, I'm obviously getting looks in my Sanchez jersey, and some guy comes running up to me and just goes right there and does the Tebow right in front of me. And I was like, oh, my God. And not even that. I remember sitting, it was like, I forget if the Red Sox had won too, if the Orioles and Red Sox won. Either way, the Yankees were eliminated in some way, and the Jets were losing. And I'm just sitting here looking at you guys like, this is my hell.
I asked for this. Yep, this is the bet I made.
I asked for this. This is my hell.
Yeah, no, man, you actually said that out loud. Yeah, I forgot about that. I'd like to think that I'm a little more of a mediator, but I know Chris Carey was loving every second of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, he gave us a bobble.
Any of those moments all over me, so enjoy them when he can.
Shoot, it's already over. Whatever. We'll be back. So, what I remember, one of my most savage but well-placed lines is the Orioles had an in-between inning game, which now I know well, at the risk of tooting my own horn, where they had a young girl, run from center field to home plate. And at the time, and the moon is not going to align like this terribly often, which is why I bring it up, because it really was one of the better moments of my savagery. Anyway, so I remember very distinctly this girl has to run from center field to home plate. And this girl runs, and she's booking it, and she makes it to home plate in the 30 seconds allotted. And I lean over to Rich and I say, paraphrasing a little bit, but I pretty much say this. I'm like, hey, Rich. And he's like, what? And I'm like, that little girl has run further than Sean Green today and touched home plate more than the Yankees. And it was the ultimate mic drop moment. Man, dude, that was – I've had some moments in my life. Believe me, man, I'm not a smart man. I'm not a role model. I'm not anything. But you don't want to get in a battle of words with me. That much is true. But even for me, I was setting the bar pretty high with that statement. I will remember that. I will be 99 years old with dementia, and I'll be like, let me tell you about the time I roasted Rich. He'll be like, again.
It's very possible that was the moment I said, "This is my hell."
Yeah, exactly, man. Those often go hand in hand.
Yeah, I had you talking trash in one ear. I had Chris going nuts in the other ear. All my teams are losing. Couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to throw it back to the bachelor party real quick because I also wound up, Chris Carey got lost in the casino. And I love Chris Carey. He's brighter than I'll ever be. But I remember he got lost in the casino and he was calling me to like try and say like, where am I? And then I remember when I found him, he literally was just, oh, and he wasn't crying. I swear to God, he wasn't crying. And I would never paint you that picture. But he was clearly emotional. And he gives me the biggest hug he's ever given me. And he goes like, so it's so good to see a friendly face. And I'm just like, all right, man, we're good. Like, let's go back up then, you know. I will never forget that for as long as I live. Because in my mind, I'm just like, Chris Carey wants to meet up. Great, you know, like I'm not, you know, like I'm not impaired, so I have no reason to think anyone else is. And then suddenly it's just like, hey man, I'm just like, whoa. That was a highlight. Well, I'll tell you what, Rich. One, I want to thank you for being on, man. I've had a blast. Some of the best memories of my life are with you. I think, very honestly, man, I think the way you treat people, and certainly the way you carry yourself has always been something that I admire a great deal. I've learned a lot from you. I appreciate that. I know that when you were working for the Patch, I know I was fresh out of college and kind of looking for a job. I didn't know what end was what, you know, because breaking into radio was harder than I thought, you know, that's the truth. And I mean, I'm happy with my life now, fear not. But at the time, you know, leaving college, I was just kind of like, oh, I was great at radio. I'll be in radio. And then it was just like, oh, if you want to get into radio, it's got to be an unpaid internship for school. And I'd be like, well, I'm already out of school. And they'd be like, well, you're out of luck. And that was my life for a while, you know. But I know I'm very blessed in the sense that I have friends that if I ask them would help me out. And you didn't need to be asked when you asked if I wanted to be involved with the Patch. And I can't pretend my tenure there was that significant or that long, but I do remember that was my first step into kind of a professional setting. And, you know, certainly our friendship is a lot deeper than this, but I did want to at least kind of publicly acknowledge how much that did for me as a person and also kind of my confidence. And hey, man, you're one of my best friends. You're my hero. I appreciate that, man.
I love you, brother. Yeah, man. It's one thing. I didn't even, you know, I remember bringing on, you wrote a couple articles. I think I appreciate knowing how much that meant to you. I did it because it was, hey, this is one of my best friends in the world, but also this is one talented guy. And I know if I bring him on and write, you know, he's going to come through with some good stuff. So that was my thought. And it's been proven in so many ways. And just, you know, probably my favorite recent memory of you is going to that Ducks game with Chris and just seeing you in action, man. You were born to just entertain people. And it is something to see, man. It made the game so much fun, and just seeing you like in your element, there's just something about you, man. You're in a room and everybody's smiling always, and you know, like I said, you're one of my best friends in the world. It's always great reminiscing with you. I think we got, you know, as fun as this is, I think we got to go more to and stay in touch, and hopefully after all this crap ends, get together soon and have a good time.
Yeah, man. I can't wait. Thank you so much for coming, Rich. This has been the Chronicles. Thank you, anybody else, for listening. All two of you. Man, thank you so much, man. I had fun.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Yep.